There are so many people challenging the establishment this time around, and it's one of the most amazing things to see coming from the progressive movement. In my own backyard, there is a race to challenge a sitting congresswoman who has been there for decades. And if you know anything about this district, New York 12, you would know that it is one of the most progressive places in the country. Of course, that's where I live. And I think it's about time that we have a congresswoman, who reflects the progress that's happening in my neighborhood in Astoria and beyond. Lauren Ashcraft, thank you for coming to the show. I just want to say from the top, I am so proud to endorse you, and I'm so excited to get you elected.
Thank you so much. I'm honored to have your endorsement and just really, really respect all the awareness you raise about the movement. So thank you so much.
Of course. So Lauren, let's talk a little bit about my favorite district in America, New York's 12th district. What inspired you to run? What was the background of your run in this cycle?
Yeah, so I grew up just knowing that the government doesn't pay attention to everyday people and the struggles that we face. And on one side of my family, my grandmother's an immigrant from Japan and faced a lot of xenophobia and racism, which is still very much alive today, as we all know. My grandfather was literally killed by corporate greed in a coal mining accident. My other grandfather fell and unfortunately broke his neck, so he became a quadriplegic, and my family was his caretakers because obviously he couldn't afford to hire one because he lost his income and everything because of his accident. And I just grew up understanding that's how it is. The government isn't there for you, but we have to be there for each other. And, I zip forward a few years down the road, Bernie Sanders had an amazing message talking about how corporate money is muddying our politics. And that really resonated with me. Actually, it took him a few times saying it till I was like, wait.
That's why he says it over and over. Okay.
Yes. Whenever you've never put the pieces together and then you hear it like 10 times, it's like, wait. Everything's a lot more broken than we even think it is. Right. And I got really involved in kind of organizing on the ground here in New York City. I was part of organizing the Women's March on New York. And in 2019, because of my background in comedy, I was really honored to MC that march. And I brought Representative Ocasio-Cortez on stage, and I saw that she was able to address the crowd and talk about the Green New Deal. She wasn't even in office yet. She hadn't been sworn in yet, and everybody knew what she was talking about. And I thought to myself, what's come out of my district? What kind of ideas has my representative fought for? And I couldn't think of one. And I thought about all the people like my family that have gone ignored. And I talk to my neighbors, I see them struggling. And now look where we are. In the middle of a pandemic, in the middle of a criminal justice crisis, this is what passive leadership looks like, and it's what it has led us to. And I'm reminded every single day why I've gotten into this race. I'm fighting for people like my family, and I'm fighting for people that have gone ignored and oppressed all this time.
This district is, for those of you who aren't based in New York, it's quite an interesting district because you do have more working class families in Queens that have traditionally been pretty working class, what we used to call middle class, at least in New York. And then you have the Upper East Side, which is, if not one of the wealthiest places on the planet. It definitely houses the wealthiest people on the planet. They probably have several homes, but many. And then it carries on to other parts of New York, which are now more and more unaffordable, but used to be, at least when Representative Maloney was in office, used to be more affordable to live in. And so you're running at a moment, at least pre-pandemic, when New York had what they labeled the strongest economy ever, but also what we label, and is true, the starkest income inequality in the country. So when you campaign, and then I guess I would be saying pre-COVID, when you campaign across the district, what are the different kinds of conversations that pop up along the way based on neighborhood, like their concerns?
Yeah, well, I've learned from this campaign that we have to throw any kind of preconceived notions totally out the window, because I walked into a very, very expensive doorman house in the Upper East Side and was expecting to have some difficult conversations. And I literally was invited into somebody's apartment, and somebody that makes more than I will ever see in my life said to me, why don't you guys tax me more?
Huh.
And I was flabbergasted, and I learned to just never have any kind of preconceived notions, because you just don't know what somebody's situation is. That opened my eyes a lot, and they're right, we should. And in Long Island City, I obviously pre-COVID was knocking on doors, and there was a man who suffered from dementia and Alzheimer's, and told me that he had one more month left of rent. And after that, he expected to move under, and he named a bridge. And I walked out of that interaction, and my team worked really hard to connect him to any resources available. But that haunts me every single day. And whenever I think about the fact that we've been represented by the same person for 27 years, and there are people that are experiencing this kind of hardship in our district, in one of the richest cities in the world. And I've had trouble sleeping at night. We've checked in on him. He has gotten connected with the resources that have helped him through this time. But now, in the middle of coronavirus, millions of Americans are losing their jobs. Over 71% of this district rents their homes. And so many people in the district can't pay rent, just like that man that we helped. But we don't have the kind of fighter that's making sure that people don't have to think about what bridge they'll live under. It's horrifying.
Yeah, and I read something the other day saying that they expect 40% of New Yorkers to have not paid their rent for 3 months. New York City, 40%. So pretty jarring numbers, and I expect it's only going to get worse.
Mm-hmm.
Lauren, this is the district that was affected by Amazon with the fight against Jeff Bezos to bring Amazon to Long Island City. This is a district that has had different forms of gentrification. Partly that's, giving New York a little bit of understanding how New York, you've had waves of immigrants come in. So it's the most diverse, Queens in particular is the most diverse place on the planet. So if you can process that, you have an entire borough of so many different cultures and backgrounds and immigrants, and you're dealing with an economic crisis like this up against Bezos. So how has the Amazon movement, which was only a little over a year ago,
Right.
and the movement to protect so many different immigrant groups who have been under patrol by ICE in partnership with Amazon, how has that framed your race?
Yeah, I look back at the corporate greed that's literally killed members of my family. I look back at the immigrants in my family, and this is all very personal. Today it's Amazon, tomorrow it could be another company that's abusing and exploiting its workers. And this is how billionaires exist. I always like to say, you have not earned $1 billion, you've exploited it. And the fact that Jeff Bezos is well on his way to becoming the world's first trillionaire in the middle of when millions of Americans are losing their jobs, and he has asked for donations so that he can give his workers benefits and time off. It's that's how you become a billionaire, is you cheat people.
Right.
And we haven't taxed him or the billionaire class or these huge corporations their fair share. And when I look at Amazon and what almost happened in Long Island City, which is my neighborhood, I think about the fact that our politicians were so ready to just roll out this red carpet and throw all these incentives at Amazon so that they would come. They want to be here anyway.
Yeah.
And we have to, as New Yorkers, understand these multinational companies want to be here. So what are they going to do for us?
Right.
Nobody asked that question. And this quote of them bringing 25,000 jobs to the city, they were literally going to bring 25,000 people to the city. Exactly. And plop them down in the middle of Long Island City and raise the rent prices, and everyone would get smushed into the same subway that's already crumbling. Right. So that I didn't see my representative fight on our behalf. I saw our neighboring district representative fight against that deal, and I'm glad she did, because I don't think that I would be able to afford to live in my district if that had happened.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Long Island City is the fastest growing city in America right now. I don't think people understand. So you have an Amazon headquarters that's plopping down with, which is, I remember saying this before, that it's a real estate deal. So what people didn't realize is this Amazon deal happened behind closed doors, which was illegal in New York. You didn't get community support. But then there were council members who approved zoning so that all these high luxury apartments could pop up around Amazon, which were being sold to Amazon workers that you just talked about. So what happens to a community that's there? The community that's already been starved of resources, the community that is living in a food desert, which has, like you just said, you have a subway that's crumbling, that they're already dealing with just basic transportation issues. And then suddenly their cost of living goes up. I mean, if it's affecting everybody, we have a real problem. If it's affecting, it's gone so past the point of I mean, we are so past the tipping point at this point that it's ridiculous to me that we don't see our Democratic lawmakers, because this is New York City, stepping up to such egregious deals. Or exactly. Opening up the red carpet to it. I mean, it's not even that. They're signing onto the deals and going to welcoming parties.
Yes. And I just, out of morbid curiosity, looked at a lot of their donations, and Amazon PAC is there. Amazon threw money at a lot of the people that signed their name to the letter, giving them all these incentives. And that's how this works. And it's also why I'm fighting for publicly financed federal elections. And whenever we look at my opponent, who's like, literally, she's like, why are people protesting jobs? I'll tell you why. I've had the privilege of speaking with Chris Smalls, who was fired from his job at Amazon for standing up for the safety of his coworkers. That's why people are protesting Amazon jobs and why we aren't willing to roll out the red carpet for them. And whenever you talk about wanting to bring jobs to the district, why aren't you fighting for a federal jobs guarantee? Why aren't you fighting hard for a Green New Deal? Co-sponsoring isn't enough. You have to be advocating every single day, because there is a jobs guarantee as part of that framework. And that's a great way to bring jobs to the district, because people will be working to make sure that we're moving towards 100% renewable energy. That's a win for every single person.
So Lauren, there's a person in the race right now who ran last time, and I have been shocked to hear and see some advertising that has been targeted to me, because I live in the district, between Representative Maloney and Suraj Patel. Suraj Patel ran last time, and it's almost childish. It's like they're running for high school president or something. Yeah. He's going after her for being an anti-vaxxer, which is true, and she's going after him for being creepy because of many things that have happened. So can you just explain a little bit about what's going on with Suraj Patel, why people are resisting supporting him this time around versus last time?
Yeah, I mean, it's a shame that so much talk around this race has been about that kind of, I would call it gossip. And I was just a voter last cycle, and I had a really tough choice to make, as did you and everyone else, because the same thing happened last time, a few days before the race. The comments that are being referenced that Suraj made about an underage woman came up, and as you know, I am a very staunch champion for gender equality and women's rights, and that really rubbed me the wrong way. And on the other hand, I'm running against Representative Maloney because I don't see her as the advocate that our district deserves. Mm-hmm. So I'm really dissatisfied with either of them, hence why I put my hat in the ring. And you're right. I mean, she has supported anti-vaccine legislation and has gone to rallies, and it's not a great thing to have supported that kind of rhetoric. And I do have a problem with the commentary that Suraj has said about underage women. And frankly, I don't see, this is the more important thing, is I don't see a vision from Representative Maloney. Like, what will you do with your next 2 years or 4 years? What is your vision for this district? Because if the last 27 years was your vision, it's not good.
What about Suraj? What is his vision right now for those who might be on the edge or followed him last time around?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of, we've been at some of these forums together, and I watch him answer questions in a way that is like, what do you guys want to hear from me? And frankly, I'm not sure what his vision is either.
Does he believe in Medicare for all, for instance? That's a great litmus test.
Yeah. So on paper, yes, but actually in our last debate, he brought up that he's proposed a compromise called Medicare for Kids. And this is the kind of thing that I fight my own party about, because the Democrats are always trying to figure out how to get more staunch conservatives on board with things that should be considered human rights. Healthcare is a human right. And why are we giving it only to kids when we should be giving it to everyone? And I think back on that man that I spoke with who was afraid that he'd have to live under a bridge. You're leaving people like him out. And you're leaving people like my grandparents out, and you're leaving people like my neighbors out. And I'm fighting for them too. So I don't know why, if you're not even in Congress yet, what are you doing proposing compromises to things that we all deserve?
Well, my guess is he's probably accepting money from folks who are compromised and feeling pressure. He also comes from a very privileged background, correct? That's his, which, there can be privileged people who run and do very good things, but there's been a criticism that he is, putting a lot of his money into this race and comes from that type of money. And I think that's important to discuss. It shouldn't distract away from politics. But if you have policies and you come from privilege, then that is how you use your privilege. Fight for other people.
Yes.
But if you're using gimmicks and shielding the public from your privilege, which is essentially what I've seen in these, in his campaigning, then I think it's a concern. So
one of the things that we noticed is he does take maxed out donations, and by maxed out I mean double maxed out. So maxed out primary donation of $2,800, and then another maxed out $2,800 for the general election. So that inflates his numbers, and this is something that a lot of candidates do that have connections to people that can just drop $5,600 like that. And that's not something that our campaign has. And I don't have that kind of connection, which is why we are really proud to have earned over six figures of donations from $16 at a time, which is our average donation.
It's fantastic.
And thank you. And I think about the fact that last time he spent both his primary and general funds, but did not win the primary. So the general fund he had to take on as personal debt. So $300,000 his campaign overspent, and that's not a problem for him. So that's the kind of thing that, if your number one goal is to unseat Representative Carolyn Maloney, I would have really appreciated his support. And, we've been working really hard on the ground and knocking on doors since last March. and have just been growing and doing this in a grassroots way. But to come in with, some more maxed out donations and try this thing again and pretend that everyone who didn't vote for him last time will forget the reasons why, like myself. It's all a reminder of why I'm doing this. And I'm fighting for the everyday people that would see my campaign and think, yeah, she can do this. I could do this. And someday I hope more everyday people do challenge me. And that's how democracy should look, as I should always be on my toes and think, the next 2 years, I want to earn my place in Congress. And that seat belongs to the people. It doesn't belong to me. It doesn't belong to Representative Maloney. It doesn't belong to anyone but the district. So if I don't see that kind of fight and acknowledgement about the working class people and about the fact that not all of us can just absorb $300,000 worth of debt, or Representative Maloney loaned herself $100,000 this cycle. Wow. I'm not running up against everyday people. I'm running for everyday people.
Lauren, that's crazy. A sitting member is using her money for her campaign. I mean, it just shows how much she wasn't expecting, even though she's been challenged several times the last few years. This is not her first challenge, and last time was not her first challenge. So it's kind of shocking that she wasn't prepared for this. Mm-hmm. Lauren, where can people learn about your race and how can they help out? Your primary is June 23rd, for those of you who aren't aware.
Yes. So the last day to request your absentee ballot is June 16th. So it's really important. If you see this, you should vote. Even if it's not for me, but vote for me. June 16th, or do it right now. Go to nycabsentee.com. And it takes literally 20 seconds max. You just have to put in your name and address, and you get your absentee ballot in the mail. Use it, put it back in the mailbox, sign and date on the envelope, and your voice matters, your vote matters. And if you want to help us spread the word, go to act.laurenashcraft.com. And every single day we have shifts where we're reaching out to people of the district on the phone and via text message, if you want to help us do that. And also, we are grassroots, as I've discussed, and I don't have the $300,000 to just dump into my own campaign. So if you like the idea of an everyday person who has the same struggles as you representing this district, then $1 as a donation truly does make a difference, because we have thousands of donors, and together this is a movement, and we are fighting to get true representation in New York's 12th congressional district.
Awesome. Keep up the amazing work, Lauren. Very proud to be working with you and endorsing you. And someday, I'm not saying that it's quid pro quo, but I hope that when you're in office, you remember and you come back on the show and talk about what it's like to be a progressive in Congress.
Oh my gosh, I thank you. I'm just really honored to have your support, and thank you for using this amazing platform to highlight grassroots progressive women.
You are listening and watching The Nomiki Show. Make sure to click subscribe and like and share to get those alerts on YouTube. And if you are not already, please join us on Patreon. It's our patrons who make this show happen. We are an independent media channel. What that means is that we don't have corporate stakeholders pushing us through the algorithms. We're not getting the likes and shares through bots. You guys are what makes the show function. So please, we invite you to join us on patreon.com/The Nomiki Show.